Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror, mystery, and thriller film called The Visit. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Inside their house, Loretta is being interviewed by her daughter about her father, Corin. Loretta says she fell in love with Corin, a substitute teacher in high school, which was quite a scandal. Then, they stayed together for 10 years and had 2 children. Sadly, the guy fell in love with someone else and moved to Palo Alto, not talking to Loretta and their kids again. According to Loretta, her parents never liked Corin. Things escalated the week she moved out of their house, ending badly one afternoon. Loretta left when she was 19 and she hasn't spoken to her parents in 15 years. However, Loretta's parents recently looked her up on the internet and asked if their grandchildren could spend a week with them. So Loretta looked them up too and learned they have a counseling website. As Loretta talks, her 15-year-old daughter, Becca, asks her to describe the events on the day she left her parents' house. Unfortunately, Loretta refuses to tell Becca, but she adds it's up to her parents if they want to share what happened with her. At the same time, she points out that her parents are good people. Later on, Loretta takes Becca and her 13-year-old son, Tyler, to Grand Central Terminal. While on the train, Becca makes a documentary about her mother and her boyfriend, Miguel. Becca is happy to give her mother and Miguel some time to get closer, adding that they're going on a trip. Becca and Tyler are excited to visit their grandparents, wondering what they're like since it's their first time meeting them. A few minutes later, Tyler gets to the restroom and uses tissue paper as he touches the door handle. While recording herself, Becca reveals that Tyler had a preoccupation with germs since their father left, which is his way of controlling things. Once Tyler comes out of the restroom, he starts rapping with the conductor and tells Becca he can rap at the end of her documentary. Once they reach Masonville on Monday morning, Tyler and Becca are greeted by their grandparents. Of course, Becca's documentary continues, and it isn't long before she records Nana and Pop-Pop. They then go home where Tyler raps for Nana about food. Afterward, Pop-Pop leads the siblings to Loretta's room and tells them not to go to the basement since there's mold there. Meanwhile, Tyler is annoyed that there's no reception in that place, but he just continues to unpack as Becca teaches him what to do in front of the camera. Once they've settled in, Becca and Tyler use an Ethernet cable to video call Loretta, who's curious about her parents. Loretta is also excited to go on a trip with Miguel and the children want her to have a good time. Then, Tyler films Pop-Pop coming out of the shed and calls him, but the old man ignores him. That night, Pop-Pop checks on the kids and says they should all sleep at 9:30 p.m. before leaving. The kids can't believe that, aside from not having Wi-Fi, they have to go to bed early. But Becca can't sleep and wants to have some of Nana's cookies, so she takes her camera and goes downstairs. However, while Becca's filming, she witnesses Nana throwing up in the dark. Scared, Becca rushes back to the bedroom and tries waking up Tyler to tell him that Nana is sick. On Tuesday morning, Becca films Pop-Up in the barn and asks if Nana is okay. Pop-Up then replies she just had a little bit of stomach flu last night, assuring Becca that Nana is fine. After that, Becca looks for Tyler, who invites her to play hide-and-seek with him in the crawl space. When Becca accepts, Tyler immediately looks for a hiding place and they both continue to record everything. As they play, Becca sees Nana on all fours, moving fast toward her. Tyler doesn't immediately realize what's going on when Becca crawls past him, but Nana soon goes after him. Frightened, Tyler gets away from the old woman, and when he escapes, Nana focuses her attention on Becca. When Becca hears Nana behind her, she immediately runs out of the crawl space. It isn't long before Nana catches up with the kids, showing them she was just having a good time. Then she heads back inside the house, unaware that her skirt is ripped and her behind is exposed. Later that day, Dr. Sam comes to the house and looks for Pop-Pop and Nana, saying he works at the hospital where they counsel. Becca informs him that her grandparents are taking a walk, so the guy just asks her to tell them he stopped by. He also adds that Pop-Pop and Nana were supposed to volunteer days ago, but since they weren't answering his calls, he came there to make sure they were okay. At the same time, Tyler goes to the shed and quickly notices the bad smell. Then he finds a pile and moves closer to it, only to realize it's used adult diapers. Revolted, Tyler quickly leaves the shed and trips outside, where Nana finds him. Because of that, Nana takes Tyler back to the house and reveals that Pop-Up has incontinence. Nana says Pop-Up hides his accidents in the shed and burns them out in the fields because he's ashamed, apologizing to Tyler for ruining things. Moments later, Pop-Up takes the kids into town, and while they're inside the car, Becca says she wants to play a game. With her camera ready, Becca asks Pop-Up to point to a building, say who lives there, and reveal what they secretly do. Of course, they're only supposed to make things up, and Becca starts the game by talking about a police station. Tyler then notices a huge brick building, which Pop-Up says is Maple Shade. The kids know that's where their grandparents volunteer, so Pop-Up says he'll find his maple shade badge and visit the place with them. They eventually reach Loretta's old school, where Becca films Tyler as he talks about their mother's time there. However, Pop-Up suddenly wants to go home, saying the man across the street keeps staring at them. Becca doesn't think the man is even looking at them, but without warning, Pop-Up attacks the guy. Becca puts the camera down as she desperately tries to stop Pop-Up, and when the old man comes to his senses, he finally gets up. Tyler then picks up the camera and quietly leaves with Becca and Pop-Up, but once they return home, he can't help but express how shocked he is. In the evening, Becca and Tyler hear a sound outside their room. Curious, Tyler instructs Becca to film him as he opens the door. In the hallway, they find Nana wearing nothing, clawing at the other bedroom door like a dog. Terrified, Tyler shuts the door and says he's now blind. On Wednesday morning, Becca asks Pop-Up about Nana's condition and learns she has a diagnosed disorder. As Pop-Up wears a tuxedo, he says Nana would sometimes think there's something inside her after eating, revealing it's called sundowning. Pop-Up also adds it's a kind of dementia triggered by nightfall. Becca can't believe that it's a real thing, but Pop-Up just tells her not to come out of her bedroom after 9:30 p.m. Then, Pop-Up apologizes to Becca for what happened, so the girl assures him she's okay before asking where he's going. Pop-Up replies that he needs to catch the train to go to a costume party, but seconds later, he realizes he's just confused and that there's no party at all. In the kitchen, Nana apologizes to Becca for spilling some biscuit batter on her webcam and trying to remove it with a cleaner. After that, Becca talks to Tyler about sundowning, explaining it's just normal old age problems. However, Tyler is confused about why Nana would use oven cleaner on the webcam, saying the tiny camera on the screen doesn't see anything now. But despite that, Becca is sure that Nana only made a mistake. A few minutes later, the siblings video call Loretta again while she's on a cruise ship. Sadly, Loretta can't see them clearly because of the biscuit batter, and that's when Tyler tells her that Nana and Pop-Up are acting strange. Tyler shares with Loretta what Nana and Pop-Up did, but Loretta is sure it's just because of their age and soon ends the call. Afterward, Becca asks Nana if she can interview her about her mother, but the old woman doesn't answer. Instead, Nana asks Becca to get inside the oven to clean it, assuring the girl it's off. Reluctantly, Becca does as she's told, and once she's done, Nana says she'll now star in her movie. Becca let Nana fix her hair before she starts filming. Then, Becca asks Nana a few icebreaker questions, and when the old woman loosens up, she inquires about what happened when Loretta left. Unfortunately, Nana becomes distraught and starts whimpering, and when Becca tells her just to ignore her question, she says she doesn't want to be filmed anymore. That evening, Tyler set up a hidden camera in the living room to see what Nana is doing every night. But Becca thinks it's unethical, so she removes it despite Tyler's protests. At 10:16 p.m., Becca and Tyler hear a noise outside the room again. This time, Becca tells Tyler to open the door just a bit, only to see Nana running back and forth in the hallway. Then, Tyler closes the door when Nala crawls toward him, unable to believe what he just witnessed. On Thursday morning, the siblings go into the woods with their grandparents. There, the kids find Nana staring into the wall, but Pop-Pop quickly leads his wife away when he notices Becca and Tyler. After that, the siblings head to the barn, where Becca interviews Tyler about their father. She asks Tyler if he still likes their father despite what he did to them, and when Tyler says he does, he adds that their father didn't get mad at him when he froze during a football game once. Later, Tyler checks the well to see what Nana was staring at but doesn't find anything. With nothing else to do, Tyler interviews Becca and asks her why she doesn't look at herself in the mirror when she combs her hair and brushes her teeth. Tyler also points out that Becca's sweater is inside out because she didn't look at herself in the mirror earlier, believing Becca started thinking she was worthless when their father left. After a while, Tyler tells Becca there's probably something in the basement since Pop-Pop warned them not to go there, but Becca just asks him to stop. Then, a woman, Stacy, arrives with a blueberry cobbler to thank Nana and Pop-Pop for helping her get better at the hospital. However, since her grandparents aren't there to talk to Stacy, Becca tries taking a picture of the woman, but she's too shy. That afternoon, Becca hears Nana laughing in the living room and finds her sitting on the rocking chair facing the wall. While filming, Becca asks Nana if she's okay, but the old woman only tries to suffocate herself with her scarf. Of course, Becca quickly stops her, and that's when Nana says she has to laugh to keep the deep darkies in a cave. Worried, Becca looks for Pop-Pop in the barn and sees him sitting with a gun in his mouth. Pop-Pop immediately says he's just cleaning it and starts wiping the gun, asking Becca what she needs. So, Becca informs him that Nana isn't feeling well, but even though Pop-Pop says he'll check on his wife, he just continues cleaning his firearm. Afterward, Becca decides to put the camera in the living room and asks for Tyler's help to install it. In the evening, Nana and Pop-Pop check if their grandchildren are okay before going to bed. Then Tyler panics and tells Becca he touched something disgusting in the bathroom, so Becca gets some tissue paper to clean his hand. Later that night, Nana opens and closes the basement door several times before walking to the living room and finding the camera. Nana takes the camera and grabs a knife, panting as she goes upstairs. She then leaves it on the floor as she heads to the kids' bedroom, where Tyler and Becca are already sleeping. They only wake up when they hear their doorknob turning, but Becca instructs Tyler to stay in bed despite the pounding at the door. On Friday morning, the siblings watch the footage and discover that Nana tried to kill them before placing the camera back in the living room. Due to that, Becca tells Tyler they must stay away from Nana and Pop-Up for the rest of the day. She also orders Tyler to pack his bag since their mother will be home late that afternoon. Moments later, Becca changes her strategy and interviews Pop-Up, asking him questions about his job and Loretta. After that, she notices from the bedroom window that Nana and Pop-Up are arguing with Stacy, and Pop-Up soon asks the woman to follow him to the back. Next, Becca interviews Nana and asks what happened when Loretta left. But when Nana gets upset again, she tells her a story about a girl who fell in love with an older man. Becca tells Nana that the girl got into a fight with her parents because of that man and eventually left, but she missed them a lot. Becca then says the man broke the girl's heart and left her and their children, asking Nana what she'd say to the girl if she was her daughter. Feeling sad, Nana says she'll tell the girl she forgives her. When Nana and Pop-Up go to the back of the house, Tyler and Becca video call Loretta. Becca begs Loretta to pick them up immediately, saying there's something wrong with their grandparents. Scared, Loretta asks where her parents are, and since the webcam is already fixed, Tyler picks up the laptop and stands by the window to show Nana and Pop-Up to his mother. Once Loretta sees the old couple, she tells her children those aren't their grandparents. She then tries and fails to call the cops, instructing her kids to get somewhere safe and wait for her. At that moment, Pop-Up enters the house and suggests playing board games while Nana asks Becca to help her clean the oven. That night, Nana makes Becca get inside the oven to clean it before closing it to wipe it from the outside. Then, when Nana lets Becca out, Becca and Tyler try fleeing, only to see Stacy hanging dead from a tree. Unfortunately, Pop-Up also catches them, but he acts like nothing is wrong and just tells them they should start playing board games. While playing Yahtzee, Becca excuses herself from the table to charge her camera. At the same time, Pop-Up gets up after soiling himself. To make things worse, Nana starts going crazy again. Meanwhile, Becca goes to the basement, thinking her real grandparents are there. Sad to say, she finds her grandparents' photos and belongings, and when she sees a maple shade uniform, she discovers that the place is actually a psychiatric hospital. She also notices a hammer with bloodstains, and it isn't long before she finds her grandparents' bodies. As if on cue, Pop-Up suddenly shows up and reveals his real name is Mitchell. He says he knows everything about the real Nana and Pop-Up because he was their patient in Maple Shade, just like the fake Nana, Claire. As it turns out, Nana and Pop-Up shared with him and Claire that their grandchildren are coming over, also adding that Claire drowned her kids in a pond. Then Mitchell tries catching Becca and ends up upstairs where Tyler lies on the floor touching his injured forehead. Annoyed, Mitchell drags Becca to a bedroom and locks her inside, where Nana keeps crawling around. Then he grabs Tyler by the hair and dresses up for his imaginary costume party before wiping his face with his dirty diaper. Upstairs, Claire repeatedly bangs Becca's head against the mirror while her eyes are closed and attacks her on the bed. Luckily, Becca gets a glass shard and uses it to stab Claire to death. Wasting no time, Becca breaks the door lock and rushes downstairs, attacking Mitchell while Tyler is frozen. However, Mitchell subdues her, making Tyler snap out of his frozen state and come at the old man. Unsatisfied, Tyler repeatedly bashes Mitchell's head with the refrigerator door, and Becca has to stop him as the cops finally arrive. Then, Becca and Tyler go outside where they see their mother with police officers. Later on, Becca interviews her mother again and learns that on the day she left, her parents tried to stop her. She then hit Nana, causing Pop-Up to hit her. Sadly, Loretta refused to talk to her parents even when they reached out to her, and all she can do now is tell Becca not to hold on to anger. Upon learning the truth, Becca decides to include her father's old videos in her documentary. She also inserts Tyler at the end of her documentary, and the boy raps about the things that happened while they were staying with their fake grandparents.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.